Welcome to another teaching from perfectingtheworld.com.
We are at the cusp of Shabbat, and we are looking at the threshold this evening for the Ger Sha'ar. This is Friday evening, Rev Shabbat. This is going to be probably the last field notes that we can do on Friday evening because Shabbat is getting earlier, unfortunately, as we move into the month of August. This is the last Shabbat of July, and next week we most likely will not be having a Friday field note. Some more announcements to come here later today. The primary fulcrum text that we've been focusing on is Deuteronomy 14:21. We've spent so much time on this text. It's been a lexical, hermeneutical launch point for so much of what we've been looking at. And I want to start off with a reminder. Psalm 146 reads, Adonai Ohev eth hager. Hashem loves the ger. He loves the sojourner. As mentioned before, there are 36 commands to love the sojourner, the ger, in the Humash, in the Torah. And I've mentioned also there are many support systems in place for the ger within the Humash. We have yet to get into the two different types of gerim, of sojourners in the Torah, and we're focused primarily at this point at the ger sha'ar. As we've noted, the ger sha'ar is given the permission to eat nevela. The text reads, Lo tochalu kol nevela, do not eat any carcass of an animal not properly slaughtered for an Israelite. Legera asher b'sharecha titanel wa'achla. You may give it to the sojourner that he may eat it. He's allowed to eat it. It's not sinful. It's not wrong for the ger sha'ar to eat it. It's actually a provision given by the God of Israel for this individual, the ger sha'ar, which we'll define here a bit more today. Omacher lenokri, or you may sell it to the nokri. And the reason given, which we've mentioned a few times, this is a fundamental boundary marker in the Torah. It reads, Ki am kadosh ladonai, Ki am kodesh ata ladonai alekav. You are a holy people to the Lord your God. So many have tried to peg or to attach the idea of healthy eating onto the biblical dietary boundaries. And the reality is that that may or may not be a benefit of the biblical dietary boundaries. But what is revealed, one of the two reasons revealed for the biblical dietary prohibitions, the one is the election of Israel, because it says, Ki am kadosh ata ladonai aleka, for you are a holy people to the Lord your God. The three categories here: the Israelites cannot eat nevela, the ger, the sojourner, is permitted to eat it. In fact, he's given it as a gift. And the Nakri is sold the nevela. The definitions that we've been working with here, we've been working with the idea of the ger as a sojourner, who is the individual who has become visible to Israel's social order, to Israel's public Torah social order, through accountability at Israel's gates. The ger is participating in the Torah structured society of Israel. The Nokri, this is the foreigner, this is the alien. Okay, this individual, the stranger, he is not recognized within Israel's social order. He's recognized, but he's a passer through. This order, this structuring, these gates are all very relevant to what we're going to uncover today. Where the Nocher, he is coming and going. He is benefiting financially from Israel, but he is not seeking to make a home or to find an asylum within Israel's gates. In contrast here, the ger nevela, the ger sha'ar, the ger at the gate, is the ger who has sought to make a home within Israel. And then as we go further, this will not be today, we'll be discussing at some point the ger Yisrael and the Ezra Yisrael. We've discussed how the nations were assigned under the jurisdiction of the 70 Sarim, the 70 princes, the 70 Elohim, the angels. They were placed under their jurisdiction as a punishment at the Tower of Babel. And at that time, God reserved to himself the family of Abraham to create from within that family an exception to the jurisdiction of the Sarim, of these princes, these angels. Now, Israel, from the beginning, from its election, was called to be a beacon of light. It was called to be a beachhead of God's Malkuth, of his kingdom, and of his reign and his presence being revealed into the world. The, the point at which God's Malkuth, his kingdom, returns back into expression and back into revelation, and it comes out of concealment and constraint, is through the operation of the image of God in Israel. This is the point at which God is able to complete the next step in the work. This is the calling of Israel. And when the ger seeks to relate to this threshold, they have to cross into this boundary. And the primary distinction between the ger, sha'ar, okay, and the nokri is the idea of the foreignness. And that foreignness is capstoned in the idea of Avodah Zarah. We've defined avoda, avad, as liturgy, work, service. The Zarah is the alienness of it, belonging to another administration outside the authorized assigned order. This term avodah zarah is often translated as idolatry, although that is a bit misleading. Idolatry is one form of avodah zarah. Avodah zarah is literally rival liturgy. It's alien service. It's unauthorized worship. Okay, it is unauthorized worship, either granted to the other gods, or whether granted to the God of Israel through an unauthorized means of approach. When the ger sha'ar, the ger at the gate, seeks to enter Israel's order, it is essential for that person to renounce their rival allegiance. That is to renounce, to revoke their allegiance to other gods. They are called to abandon foreign worship and the unauthorized liturgy. They're called to accept a commandment that is given to Israel ahead of the rest of the nations. At some point, as we've discussed, all nations will be saying Shema Yisrael, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord alone. They are accepting proleptically a commandment that all nations will accept ahead of the rest of the nations. And within this revoking of Avodah Zarah, they also need to recognize the Torah as the constitution that was entrusted to the people of Israel. So this is where we left off. And the question that I challenged you with is this: how does the ger sha'ar, the ger at the gate, the sojourner at the gate, become visible to Israel's social order? How does the ger become recognized by Israel's social order? And by visibility, I mean to be accountable to working within Israel's social order. We're going to answer this within the confines of the canonical Chumash, and we're going to pull it right from the verse that we've been reading this whole time. When it says, Lager asher b'sharecha, we are already being given the answer. The term there is often translated within your gates, the sojourner within your gates. The Hebrew here is ba, which means in, with, or at. Shareka means gate, your gate in this case. This individual is the sojourner who is in a relationship to Israel's gate. Gates obviously are a boundary marker in any society, and the gate takes on a very specific function in ancient Israelite Torah society. So again, we have the phrase Hager Asher B'Shareka. Okay, the ger who is within your gates. And I would translate this for clarity as the ger at your gate. Again, this preposition ba can mean in, with, or at. This is the ger at your gates. The word sha'ar is the word for gate. What is the function of the gate within the covenantal, constitutional context of Israel? The gate is jurisdictional. It's a jurisdictional function. It has a jurisdictional role within ancient Israel. The sha'ar refers to the seat of or the locale of judgment of mishpat and justice in Israel. The local judgment of Israel's authorized courts begins at the gate. When there was an appeal in a legal matter, we obviously have the High Court of Israel, the Sanhedrin. That's the High Court of Appeals. But that's not where we begin. We begin at the local gate when it comes to matters of judgment. Now, let me show you specifically 2 examples of this particular use of the word gate. This is, first of all, 16:18 of Deuteronomy. It says, "Judges and officers you shall make you at all your gates, which Hashem your God gives you throughout your tribes, and they shall judge the people with righteous judgment." The phrase there is bechol sha'arecha, okay, at all of your gates. The gate is the seat of judgment. In the book of Ruth, chapter 4, we see, for example, Boaz gives the opportunity for the nearest of kin to claim the right for it to be a kinsman redeemer. And this happens with the witnesses and the elders at the gate. The gate is the place of judgment. Deuteronomy 17:8, if there arise a matter too difficult for you in judgment, between blood and blood, between plea and plea, between stroke and stroke, or plague and plague, matters of controversy, divrei revi'oth, matters of controversy, bishareka, at your gates. Specifically, what is being referred to as you continue with this passage is the process of appeals. But the lowest appellate, the lowest level of appeal, is at the level of the gate. Continuing on this, we've already looked at what the ger sha'ar does. He or she, he renounces, revokes rival allegiance to other gods. He declares exclusive loyalty to Hashem. But the next 2 parts, number 3 and 4, and we're going to leave 5 and 6 absent at this point. Numbers 3 and 4 is the affirmation of Israel's covenantal boundaries. Okay, number 3, recognition that Torah was entrusted to Israel rather than being independently possessed by the nations. If you've been in our Mishnah walk class on Sundays, we've been learning how the Torah was entrusted to Israel. God bound himself to the family of Israel. And in so doing, when someone from the nations seeks to learn the Torah and does so by bypassing the Jewish people, they're bypassing the deposit and the inheritance that was given to Israel, the Jewish people. And this is why it is essential to recognize that the Torah was entrusted to Israel and that the nations cannot independently possess the Torah. It was given as a possession, a morosha, to the house of Jacob. Okay, so that's number 3, to recognize that the Torah is not independently possessed by the nations. Number 4, there's a necessity to become willing to be accountable to Jewish judgment, instruction, and boundaries. And we can substitute Israel, Israelite, and Jewish. Covenantally, at this time, they are all the same. There is no exception. Every Israelite today is a Jew. This is difficult. And why is that? This is very difficult. Within the Christian world, so many have inherited the idea that all of the boundaries between Israel and the nations have been abolished. The idea has been received that because of certain beliefs, because of inward changes in the heart, justification, imputation, salvation, regeneration, that all of these changes in the heart mapped onto the Protestant vocabulary of the doctrines of soteriology or salvation, that the individual has moved through all of the gates and all of the boundaries in such a way that the gates no longer exist. They've been removed. They've been removed. And that's how most people read much of the New Testament, which, by the way, we are currently doing a study on Thursday evenings on Ephesians 2. One of the passages that speaks in some of the most traditionally received language to speak about the abolition of the boundaries between Israel and the nations. But one of the fundamental first steps that the God-fearer from the nations, who is seeking to apprentice themselves to the Torah of Israel, one of the first steps they have to acknowledge and to affirm are the Torah native boundaries between Israel and the nations. This is probably the hardest, the most difficult step that many who have been in a Torah pursuant lifestyle can accept. And that's the idea of apprenticing themselves to Israel's Torah, to the Jewish people. And of course, if you've been learning with me for any time, I am not saying that the Jews have every idea correct. We have a lot of hashkafic ideas wrong, okay? But that's not the area of apprenticeship. The area of apprenticeship is in specifically our legal tradition, our halacha. Okay, that's the area where the learning, it needs to happen. One cannot learn the biblical Torah while bypassing the people who have preserved it for the last 3,000 years. That's essential. When you love someone, you affirm their boundaries. When you love the God of Israel, you affirm the boundaries that he established. And those boundaries are not there to keep you out. Those boundaries are opportunity for you to respect and affirm God and to show love for God by honoring those boundaries and using those boundaries as opportunity for ascent. So if you are from the nations and you are in a Torah pursuant relationship with God, you are pursuing his Torah, you've fallen in love with our Shabbat, you've fallen in love with the dietary laws as far as you understand them. It is first of all necessary, absolutely necessary, to renounce the Avodah Zarah that includes foreign religions, dat hadash, foreign religions in your life. That is absolutely essential to revoke and to renounce the Avodah Zarah in your life. Now, some people have answered the question. The question that we asked was this. Okay, the question was, how does the ger sha'ar, the ger who wants to be acknowledged at the gate, become visible to Israel's social order? Some of you answered conversion. Okay. The idea of gior, we have not even begun to discuss it yet. That's the idea of becoming part of Israel through naturalization. I'm going to tell you right now that is not the answer. Okay, that's not the answer. I'm not saying it's not the answer for you personally. I'm not saying it's not the answer on a broad scale or a small scale. But the answer we're looking for here at this moment is the idea of the ger b'shareka, the ger who is at the gate. If you noticed early on, okay, in this earlier depiction at the gates here, I already hinted at this early on. This is the ger nevela, the ger who has permission to eat nevela. It's not sin for this ger to eat the unslaughtered meat, to eat the meat that's not been given a kosher slaughter, okay? This is the ger who is registered to the gate. That is, this ger has affirmed Israel's boundaries, specifically through coming at the level of the place of judgment. Now, maybe I've missed this. The gate is the place of judgment. When the ger crosses this threshold, the threshold is literally to step into visibility by Israel. It's the grammar here of the text is to be acknowledged by Israel's judges. Okay, it's to come into Israel's social order. And I should emphasize this too. This opportunity is not available to everybody. This is not, quote, to use the classic terminology, this is not something that can be called a salvation issue. A person's relationship with God ideally begins with renouncing and revoking Avodah Zarah, but God is bigger than even that, okay? But the social order of Israel is here for a reason, okay? It's here for a reason. It's here specifically to elevate the world. It's meant to be the point of the world's elevation, to move into the calling of partnership with God to bring godliness and God's presence into this world. It is the beacon of light for the world, okay? And the threshold is supposed to be ideally being acknowledged or acknowledgement by Israel at the gates, growing into visibility with Israel at the gates. We haven't even begun to get into the Torah social welfare systems for the Ger Sha'ar. There are multiple points at which the Ger Sha'ar is given benefit within Israel's Torah order. We haven't even gotten there yet. At this point, I do want you to subscribe. I want you to share this video. I want you to comment if you have any even objections or thoughts about how this works in your life. I would love to hear you speak on this. Our NT project class is going to continue to develop these organic Torah native boundaries. Like I mentioned, they are Torah native boundaries. They are organic to how the Torah speaks. These are not artificially imposed. And when we come back, we are going to be looking specifically at the traditional criteria as we've received them for how the Ger Sha'ar steps into visibility at the gate. Now, I have some news. Next week, I am traveling. There will be Mishnah Walk on Sunday. There will be NT Project on Thursday evening. However, the field notes will not be held at 8 o'clock p.m. I will be doing some lives on Perfecting the World Facebook group. So please join there if you'd like to get to receive some lives. I will be discussing some of the Ger Sha'ar topics there as well. And with that said, let me remind you, perfectingtheworld.com. You can join our learning community. We have weekly classes on Mishnah. We have our Image of God class on Tuesdays, and we are tackling Ephesians 2 in the NT project on Thursday evenings. We have a forum for discussion, and we have multiple lines and opportunities for learning. I wish you all a fantastic Shabbat as we are just about to enter Shabbat. This is sadly, the last Erev Shabbat, the last Friday that I can do a recording because we are getting too close to Shabbat for me to continue to do Fridays. As we get into the fall, I will be able to do a Motzei Shabbat Saturday evening to replace the Friday, but that's going to be a few months out. Have a fantastic Shabbat. Thank you for joining us, and I will see you next week.
Join the perfectingtheworld.com community today.